Hey everybody, it's Monday, and like I said on Twitter, Ed the Sock has a cold, and so we're delaying the Meep costume. I'm working on it right now. I'm sewing the Meep costume while I'm talking to you. And sewing wasn't a bad thing for me to do because over the weekend I needed to take some time and do some thinking because of how crazy things have been of late. And I've decided to implement a new rule on this channel in terms of, live streams and Twitch and all that stuff. Not just this channel, but Twitch, like all the stuff I do. And I had to think long and hard about this because I really don't want, I don't want to gonna squash freedom of expression. I think it's really important that people be able to talk about ideas, but certain things lead to emotional reasoning and just get people upset. And so rational dialogue cannot happen. And so I've decided to implement a rule on my channel. There are very few rules. I have a lot of rules for me, but not a lot of rules for other people. But as you know, like one of my rules is you attack other people as opposed to just, debating me. No, that's against the rules. That's pretty much one of the few rules we have on this channel. But I'm adding another one. And that is I will no longer tolerate anybody suggesting that violence against another person is ever okay. And this came out because of the stuff that happened Thursday and Friday and over the weekend, and my own experiences, saying flat out to people, for people who haven't been following, people didn't see it. There was a writer for Quillette and a few other publications, freelance writer, but he was covering the Proud Boys Antifa thing in Portland, and Antifa beat him up, like badly. Like I'm not talking a few whacks and silly string, although that was there. He was beaten so badly that Quillette reported that he suffered a brain bleed that required medical treatment. And a bunch of people accused him of provoking it to get attention and all that stuff. If he did provoke it for attention, he's learned his lesson now. If you actually believe that this is in his benefit, I suggest you go watch the interview he did on CNN, where he's clearly showing cognitive impairment. And it's the sort of thing that you really can't fake. And that just seeing it from my own eyes, that convinced me. And yet people continued to tell me that it was fine because he was a white supremacist and because he was alt-right. And those of you who have watched my channel for quite some time know that I have had more than my share of run-ins with the alt-right. I never advocated violence against them. I never suggested that they should be beat up. In fact, those of you who know that sordid story know that when, those alt-right figures fell, I was actually quite sympathetic to the things that had damaged them as people, as a human being. And that's the way I believe that, that's the way I believe in living my life. I think it actually benefits me to be better than other people. More on that in a bit. I want to be abundantly clear. From now on, in live streams, like in comments are harder to police. But in live streams, anybody starts saying that any violence against anybody, and we're not talking about when war's declared, okay? That's warfare. That's different. There are rules of engagement. I'm talking about people on the street beating each other up or anything that's violence in a peace situation between civilians. I will not tolerate that anymore. And because I think at that point, rationality has left. There need to be certain things that we just accept, and, pretending you're freaking Batman on the streets of Portland. You know what? It's not even pretending you're Batman, because Batman works alone and these people mob people. And the reason I feel strongly about this is because the rationale given was that, well, this guy's a bad person. And so I offered to these people, well, people say I'm a bad person. Like, I've been accused of being a white supremacist. I've been accused of being a racist more times than I can count. And I said to the one of the people that made this comment, do I deserve to get beat up? And basically the response was some shade of, well, that won't happen to you. And I disagree. I don't think anybody thinks it will happen to them until it happens to them. As somebody who has been stalked, as somebody who has been menaced, as somebody who has been assaulted more times than I can count doing my job in media. That's part of the reason I got out of television. I got sick of the petty assaults in crowd situations. When you're working crowds, when you're spotting a camera, when you're crew, people just take a crack at you because they know they won't get caught. They know you're not going to stop what you're doing to find out who hit you. And it's a crowd. They just disappear. There's nothing you can do. I got sick of it. I got sick of being hit in the back. I got sick of being hit in the back of the head just by doing my job. This is an ongoing problem when you're doing anything out in public as media, and it's getting worse because people think it's funny. The media has been so demonized by various forces. The current U.S. administration has been especially bad for it, but people on the left have done it too. That is not an equivalency. That is just saying nobody's partisan hands are particularly clean here. And I'm sick of it, because as much as the media screws up, and I've been critical of people in the press when I think it's warranted, a free press, a free and independent press is essential to a functioning democracy. Now, do I think the media is as free as it once was? No, I don't. There's too many moneyed interests propping up these sites, but that's a story for another time. There should never, ever, ever be any suggestion that beating up a journalist because you disagree with their politics is ever okay. If you think that's okay, you can no longer claim to be against fascism, because one of the first things fascists go after is the media. That's just true. That's just fact. And so I'm not going to, and I'm not talking like, to be clear, I'm not talking about turns of phrase. Like, people say I'd like to kick his ass without thinking. It's not going to be like that. There are certain things, people will get warnings. I'm not going to be unreasonable about this, but I just want to make everyone clear. I just want to make it clear that I will not tolerate this anymore, because I'm getting sick of the nonsense. Now I have to say what I mean by nonsense. I'm getting sick of this guilty until proven innocent discourse that we're currently functioning in. I'm getting sick of people making accusations, and then the person who the accusation is leveled against has to prove it's not true. It is very, very, very hard, sometimes impossible, to prove a non-event. People making the accusation, the burden is on them, the onus is on them to support their claim, to prove their case. It is not up to the person being accused to exonerate themselves beyond a shadow of a doubt. Guilt is supposed to be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, not innocence. The thing is, I've seen this sort of behavior before. It's a very human thing to try to justify an atrocity because your brain just can't handle it. I've talked before about my friend. I was 6 years old. I lost my friend and 3/4 of her family to the bombing of Air India Flight 182. This was back in the 80s. It was an act of terrorism, Sikh separatist terrorism, if anybody would like to know. I don't want anybody going Islamophobic on me for that. But I remember acutely in the days after that bombing, kids at my school finding every reason why what happened was somehow just. They made up horrible, horrible rumors about a dead 7-year-old girl. I remember somebody saying, oh no, there was footage on the airplane. There were cameras on the airplane. She was smoking on the airplane. And the implication was, oh, she was a bad person, so she deserved to die. And when I was 6, I was like, why would someone do that? And that has haunted me, because these people were my friends. These people were her friends. You know, these were people who played with both of us not a month earlier. They were trying to make a horrible thing make sense. It's you know, the whole just world fallacy, that somehow bad things only happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. Life's not like that. That's not what life's about. And too many people do and say horrible things, trying to force the world to be fair. And the only thing that you can force to be fair is your own behavior. That's the only thing you can control. You can also choose only to associate with people who also behave fairly. You don't have to, I mean, okay, if you work with some, you know what I mean? Like in your friends circle, the people you work with, you associate with socially. You have the choice. No, really, you do. It is a totally valid choice to just go, I don't like this person. I don't think they're a good person. I don't want to spend time with them. That is a totally valid thing to do. Now, the rest of the world, you know, the big problems of the world, we can't solve those as little people. We can talk about it. We can debate it. But even then, I've seen too many people just on the verge of cracking at the enormity of it all. And these are people that I've talked to. You know, they're not perfect people, but they're good people. Nobody's perfect. And one of them over the weekend asked me specifically about how I didn't retaliate when those, you know, alt-right figures were coming after me hard. For people who don't know the whole sordid story, they were conspiring with a very nasty set of online trolls who were trying to get me to make a suicide attempt. That came out in leaked chat logs. This is confirmed. This is the severity of it. And I still managed to find a way to see that not very nice human being as a human being. And one of these people who's struggling very much, they said a bunch of things that I'm like, and instead of, you know, reacting in kind, instead of getting offended, I saw past what they were saying into why they said it. And I said, you seem extremely stressed. You know, you seem like you're having trouble handling stress. Maybe it's a good idea to back away from politics for a while. And I give this person real credit for saying, you know what? I'm not handling stress. I am struggling. And I give this person a huge amount of credit for being that self-aware. And then, of course, it all came out. Like everything they were laboring under. And I'm not gonna betray a confidence in that regard. But basically, it was yet another thing where this person had just been labeled a bad person because of stuff they basically couldn't control. They were these news stories that rattle everybody. They have ripple effects, and innocents get hurt. People who didn't do anything wrong are treated like scapegoats, like whipping boys. And that stays with someone for life. It's a traumatic thing. And all this stuff came out, and I'm kind of like, I set boundaries. A couple things I said, well, that's a non-starter with me. But because this person had enough wherewithal to admit they weren't okay, there's a certain amount of license I will give somebody because of that. And they asked me, when these alt-right people were coming after me hard, what why did I take the high road? Why did I not respond in kind? Why didn't I just let loose? Because, they rightly said, you had to have considered it at some point. And sure, I did. I had my moments. But what I said to them was basically, and I'm going to elaborate on this, I was typing it. So you're always more abbreviated when you're typing, especially on a phone. But basically the answer was that I don't not respond in kind. I don't take the high ground for them. I do it for me. I don't, it isn't about them. At that point, I don't care about them. They're not my problem. They win if I slip. They win if I sacrifice what I know is right and fall into what I believe to be wrong because they got to me. And that's why I do it. Not because I'm, I've learned to be tougher than most people, but I didn't start off that way. Like most introverted nerds, I'm a very sensitive person. I've had to learn coping strategies. I've had to learn ways to not let this stuff consume me. And I'm saying this, I'm saying this, and easier said than done, right? Like, how do you do it? Well, everybody has different things that work for them. That was one of the things that frustrated me about, therapy and stuff like that. They're like, well, you have to do this and you have to do that. I'm like, how? And they didn't have any answers at the time. And so I started seeking out the how for me. And a lot of it came through video games. A lot of it came through, video game metaphors and perceptions of strength, powerful people, how did they respond to things? What were the things they did right? What were the things they did wrong? Stories are powerful in that way because you get to pick the stories you tell yourself about your own experience. And, fortunately, we live in the age of nevertheless, she persisted, right? And so my two big mantras nowadays are well-behaved women seldom make history and nevertheless, she persisted. Those are the two things I repeat to myself when things get tough. Now, those may not necessarily work for you. You've got to find the things that work for you. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do, the strongest thing you can do, the most heroic thing you can do, I say, because I saw Spider-Man Far From Home over the weekend. It was fantastic. It was so good. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to do nothing, to just take the hit and either respond calmly, not respond in kind, or say nothing at all. Sometimes that's the right thing to do. And it's hard. It's way harder than retaliating, but that's why it's the right thing to do. In the long run, it benefits you. In the long run, people eventually see who behave well and who behave not so well. And I'm saying this because I want to give respect and I want to give credit to the person who asked me that, because not everyone can identify they're not doing well. That's a big thing. So if you're watching this, this is me giving you total credit. But then they also had the wherewithal. They had the bravery to ask for help. And it was a small thing. It's just, how did you do this? But that's still asking for help. And way too many people are too proud to ask for help that way. And I know a lot of you guys have done it. I've had private conversations with a lot of you. I've seen your bravery. I've seen, those sort of private moments where you put your pride aside and just reach out, risk that rejection and reach out. And that's powerful. I mean, it's humbling every time somebody who doesn't even know me, they watch my videos and they chat with me on Twitter. That's the only way they know me. But they still reach out and think I'm worthy of that trust. And man, that's powerful. That's humbling and that's powerful. And that's part of the reason, that's another reason why I try to take the high road as much as possible, because I don't want to let you guys down. You guys have been brave enough to share deeply personal details of your struggles with me. And I want to do right by you in my content. And that's a burden, but that's also a real source of strength. I want to let you know, you guys give me a reason to do the right thing. And that's really powerful. So that's just my bringing back a bit of Mountain Monday. Everybody take a deep breath, like if you need to. But I thought we'd just start the week with something affirming, because I know a lot of people are scared. I know a lot of people are overwhelmed. I know a lot of people are confused. And I know a lot of people feel like they just have the need to do something. They don't know what. And again, sometimes just riding it out, sometimes just staying the course is the right thing to do. So don't feel like you're not doing anything. Okay, content over, jokey segue. If you want to do something and you haven't back boss fight, because we're in the last week. There's 5 days to go now. I'm not going to push it super hard because I'm already in the range I'm very happy with. I'd love to hit 25 grand, but I don't have to. 20's awesome for me, but I am going to push it. Because we got to. Big finish for the end. Support Boss Fight like a good bra. Links in the description box of this video. Thanks for watching.